Okay, the meeting is now live. Over to the Chairman of South Northamptonshire Council, Councillor Tony Bagot-Webb.
Good evening, everybody. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, good evening, councillors, officers, members of the public and the press to this remote meeting of the full council of South Northampton Council. Before we move to the agenda, I would like to introduce my Vice Chair, Councillor Rosie Herring. Should I have any technical issues, and that could well happen, and drop out of the meeting, Councillor Herring will take the chair until I get reconnected. That would possibly affect Natasha as well, who's sitting behind me 2 metres apart. Apologies for absence, Natasha.
Thank you, Chairman. We've had apologies from Councillor Medina. Is any member aware of any other apologies? No, just Councillor Medina then, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Natasha. Declaration of interest. Members, do you have any interest to declare on any items on the agenda?
Chairman, item 7.1, motion on council tax reduction scheme. I will be leaving the meeting for the discussion on that item. The reason being is there's a risk of a challenge of predetermination, as the decision on the West Northamptonshire council tax reduction scheme will be one taken by the executive, the shadow council executive, of which I am a member and the chair. And therefore, in order to ensure that we are not expressing an opinion, I shall be leaving, and I suspect Councillor Breeze will be doing so as well, but she can do that for herself. So thank you, Chair.
Councillor Breeze.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, for exactly the same reasons, which I won't rehearse, I will be leaving the meeting temporarily. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Minutes of the council. Members, there is an error on the minutes. Under minute 9, Chairman's address, my consort name has been incorrectly spelt. This has been corrected on the version for me to sign. Subject to the amendments above, do you agree as a correct record in the minutes of the annual meeting held on the 16th of September 2020?
Agreed.
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 I think that was that motion was carried. Thank you. Chairman's announcements. Housekeeping. Members are requested to ensure that they follow the protocol for remote meetings. Mute your microphone if not speaking. Turn your camera off if you need to move away from your screen. Use the raise hands to indicate you want to speak. Natasha will be monitoring this and keeping me updated. Wait for me to call you to speak, and do not speak over each other. And I think if we try that, it will cause some echo problems, and that's one of the reasons I'm wearing headphones this evening. When voting, we'll be using the online poll. I will let you know when you're able to vote on the recommendations, and you should vote either for, against, or abstain. You will have 30 seconds to vote when the poll comes up. I'm sure members will join me in congratulating former District Councillor Blake Simpson, who was awarded the BEM, British Empire Medal, for services to the community of Brackley, Northamptonshire, in the Queen's Birthday Honours list, which was announced in October. Former District Councillor Simpson served on South Northamptonshire Council from 1987 until 2015. He was chairman of the council in 1998-99 civic year. Having moved to Brackley in 1973, Mr. Simpson joined Brackley Town Council in 1973 and is still a serving town councillor. During his time in Brackley, Mr Simpson has also been involved with various clubs and organisations, including the Banbury Brackley Citizens Advice Bureau, Brackley Rotary Club and Brackley Music School. Congratulations to Mr Simpson on his well-deserved award. I must also remind you that the Chief Exec and Senior Management are hosting an all-member briefing session at 6 p.m. on Monday the 23rd of November. You have all been sent a Zoom link for this briefing. Please do ensure that you join what will be a very informative and useful update. Item 5, public participation. There have been no petitions or questions from the public. Item 6, written questions. There have been no written questions from members that have been submitted. Item 7, motions. 2 motions have been submitted. They were received after the agenda was published and were published as a supplement to the agenda. So I'll move to the first motion. The first motion is on the Western Northamptonshire Unitary Council Tax Reduction Scheme 21-22. Consultation proposed by Councillor Loft.
Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Loft, please could you present your motion? There was a slight pause then because we had to switch the screens.
Thank you, Chair.
Chair, just before you start, I was informed that we were going to be placed in a waiting room or something before this. Can democracy do that, please?
Thank you, Councillor McCall, for prompting that.
Affirmative. I will move Councillors McCord and Breeze into the waiting room.
Can you confirm when done, please, Richard?
Okay, Councillors McCord and Breeze are in the waiting room.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. I think South Northamptonshire Council can be congratulated over our support for the most vulnerable in our community over the years, because we've helped them to pay their council tax bills. We have a good record of targeting financial support to those who need it most, and there has been cross-party agreement on this strategy for quite some time. Currently, low-income families that qualify for our support pay only 15% of their annual council tax bill, and many struggle even to find this amount. We are now being forced into a new unitary council that includes Northampton, where council tax support is much lower. Members may be aware that residents in Northampton who qualify must currently pay 35% of their bill. Now, government rules mean that once West Northamptonshire Council takes over next May, all of its low-income residents must pay the same contribution towards their council tax. The current consultation that's been issued by West Northamptonshire on the proposed solution shows that our low-income families will face paying 27.5% of their bills, and that is almost twice the amount they currently pay. At the same time, it looks like residents across South Northamptonshire will see above average increases in the total amounts of council tax. Again, we will have to reach the same tax level that's raised in Northampton. Councillors, our low-income families will be facing a tsunami of financial pressure in the spring. Many of these people have been impacted by loss of jobs and income due to the COVID pandemic. Economists have predicted that Brexit will increase pressure on household budgets, and we now see council tax increases and lower support adding to their problems. I strongly believe that we must continue to fight for our vulnerable families. We must formally respond to the consultation as set out in the proposal, and I ask members across the council to continue our cross-party approach to supporting low-income families. Chair, I have pleasure in moving the motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lofts. Is there a seconder for this motion? Councillor Johns?
Thank you, Chairman.
Will you speak or reserve the right to speak later in the debate?
I'll speak now, if I may, Chairman.
You may speak now.
Chair, the proposals out for consultation means in cash terms, according to our own staff, that the poorest in our district will have to find between approximately £4 and £6 a week extra if they were in a Band C property. The amount obviously varies depending on individual circumstances and what council tax band the individual or family live in. But the actual amounts are likely to be even greater, as next year council tax will almost certainly increase for everyone. When we were asked to support the shotgun wedding to create West Northamptonshire Council, the government and all our local MPs claimed that reorganisation would save money. And many of us didn't believe that for a moment that this would be the case. But it's becoming clearer day by day that West Northants Council's first budget will impose financial hardship on many residents across South Northants. More than 1,500 of our area's most vulnerable will be hit by this unprecedented reduction in support for paying their council tax. Struggling families will be forced to pay hundreds of pounds a year for the same or perhaps even reduced services, and at a time when increased numbers of people are losing their jobs due to the pandemic. Chairman, it's my belief that this proposal from the West Northants Council is wrong and should be opposed. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Councillor Johns. Councillor Rawlinson, you are proposing an amendment to the motion. Natasha will display this on the screen. You can then please present your amendment.
Okay, thank you very much, Chairman. Councillors, I'm very glad to have the opportunity to respond to this motion. Let me firstly say that I agree with the sentiments of this motion, and I do not want to see the most vulnerable in our communities to be hit with significant cost rises any more than you do. Indeed, I addressed the West Northamptonshire Shadow Executive meeting making that same point. But, and there always is a but, there are a number of reasons that make it problematic, and you know them as well as I do. As of the next financial year, South Northamptonshire will no longer exist as an administrative area. Likewise, neither the borough nor Daventry. The one unitary council will replace them all. And whilst it is theoretically possible to transition the CTRS rates over time, legally, it is very much a grey area, and the Ministry of Housing and local government say that it has to be done by day one where practical. And it is our officer's view that it is practical, and staggering the rise would actually be more problematic and indeed open to legal challenge. Therefore, proposing such an action would be a waste of any response we made to the consultation. If you can't keep the council tax reduction low in just one area, then keep it low across the whole area, I hear you say. And it would be legal to set the council tax reduction scheme at 8.5% across the whole of West Northamptonshire. But this, of course, then creates another problem. Nearly 75% of those eligible come from the borough, 15% from Daventry, and only 12 here in South Northamptonshire. And that means that for every £1 of extra support for SNC, another £1.25 is required for Daventry, and over £6 in the borough. Now, the total cost of the scheme across the whole of West under the present schemes is over 9 million. If we adopted the South Northants rate, it would cost 12 million, the Daventry rate at 20%, 10 million, and the 26.5 is actually the 9 million. So this is why they have suggested the 26.5, meaning that it does not cost any more than the current scheme. So the logic is understandable, as it neither costs any more or less. However, this does not alter the fact that those eligible residents who are most economically vulnerable in South Northamptonshire could see a 200% rise overnight in their council tax liability if they were on the maximum discount. Of course, not all receive the maximum as its means tested, but at that level, it would be £6. So I agree with your figures there, additional cost based on a Land D property. And at the same time, Daventry eligible residents will be hit with 30%. And in fact, the borough would see a reduction. Whilst this is a major problem for SNC residents, one must balance with the fact that many more will actually see their council tax liability reduce. So it is a little disingenuous to say that with a pan-west view, the new unitary is adding to costs. And I'm not sure how the Lib Dems in the borough would take to South Northampton Lib Dems wanting to increase the cost for the residents in the borough. On the one hand, we need to ensure that New West Northamptonshire Authority is financially sound, and we know to our cost the implications of poor financial management. On the other hand, we need to ensure that the most vulnerable are protected. It is up to us as shadow councillors, and especially those who sit on the working groups and overview and scrutiny committee, to engage fully in the budgeting process and looking where savings can be made. We know the amount that we would need to be found to reduce the impact on our residents, and I hope with some judicious pruning it will be possible to reduce the amount from the currently quoted 26.5%. And there remain other potential avenues for us to mitigate the effects of that rise, and I'm currently working on those. And I think therefore I would like to amend the motion to make it slightly wider so that we are fighting on all fronts, not just on the consultation. So the proposal is that South Northamptonshire Council has an enviable reputation of maintaining high levels of financial support for our most vulnerable residents, and will continue to actively pursue all practical means to minimise any increase in financial liability as a result of future changes to the council tax reduction scheme made by the West Northamptonshire Shadow Council. Thank you very much, Chairman, Councillors.
Thank you very much, Councillor Rawlinson. Councillor Paul Wiltshire, I believe, is going to second this motion. If so, will you speak or reserve your right to speak later in the debate, Councillor Wiltshire?
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Rawlinson has explained the situation with remarkable clarity. I do not believe I could add anything to it, and I will not speak on this occasion.
Thank you. This is now a chance for any member to speak. I believe Councillor Bignell wishes to speak.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'd like to thank Councillor Loss for his original motion and the sentiment behind it. However, this scheme went before a task and finish group, which was made up of members from all 4 councils and was cross-party. This group worked up the recommendation, which is now out for public consultation. What mystifies me, though, is that Councillor Loss was on this task and finish group and the recommendation was passed unanimously. So given that he voted for it, I fail to understand why he now wants this council to question the recommendation that he endorsed. Maybe he was just too embarrassed to vote against his fellow Liberal Democrats in the borough.
Thank you, Councillor Bignell. Does anyone else wish to speak? I'll take that as no. Sorry. Councillor Billingham, I believe, wishes to speak.
Thank you, Chairman. Could I just ask if any modelling's been done as to how we think that this somewhat swingeing increase is going to affect council tax collection rates? And could I also ask for clarification, because my understanding has always been that our residents on maximum benefits pay only 8.5% of the council tax, whereas Councillor Lofts was quoting 13.5%. And I'm wondering if I've missed something. So maybe those 2 items could be addressed. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishes to speak? Is there anyone? Natasha?
Councillor Loss, just to confirm, you'll have the opportunity to speak before we move to the vote as the proposer of the original motion. So we have noted your request to speak. And I think, did Councillor Rawlinson just want to come back on a point of clarification to Councillor Billingham's question?
Thank you. Yes, I did. Yes, in fact, you haven't missed anything. Council tax reduction scheme is actually 8.5% in South Northamptonshire, and there has been modelling done on the varying collection rates, and actually they're remarkably similar at regardless of the rate of CTRS.
Councillor Pritchard, I believe, wants to speak.
Thank you, Chairman. Aren't we a little bit premature? Because I gather that there is a consultation period actually in existence at the moment, but surely we shouldn't be actually commenting on any of these sort of recommendations until the consultation period actually is finished.
Councillor Rawlinson, do you wish to sum up on that point? On the amendment.
I think the amendment actually covers that we will work during this period up until the time that is actually set to ensure we do the best for our most vulnerable residents.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Loss, as the proposer of the motion, you have the opportunity to speak before we vote on the amendment.
Thank you, Chair. And it would have been useful to have seen this amendment in advance so that we could actually consider it. It does feel as though we've been bounced tonight. And I think it's a shame that Councillor Rawlinson couldn't share this with me in advance of the meeting. However, I do think that what the amendment does is remove all teeth from the motion. It's mealy-mouthed. It doesn't have any specifics within it. It just seems to have a collection of promises. And I don't think that our low income families will appreciate the way that the Conservatives tonight have tried to escape from their responsibility to stand up for them. So I will not accept the amendment. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Members, we will now vote on the amendment using the online poll. You will have 30 seconds to vote for, against, or abstain. If the outcome is unclear, we'll move to a roll call vote. I can confirm that the amendment is carried. This is now the substantive motion, and we're now debating this, as Natasha is showing on her screen. It's just going to take a couple of seconds.
Chair, can I propose that we just move straight to the vote on this, please?
Okay, is that accepted, Natasha?
Is there a second?
Do I have a seconder for that?
I'll do.
Yes. Okay, so the vote is by show of hands. Sorry. Okay. Are members happy to move to the vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Right. We'll now do the vote by poll. Okay, all members have voted and the motion is carried. as amended. Thank you. Right. Can we bring back Councillor McCord and Councillor Breeze back into the meeting, please?
Affirm, Chairman. Both members have been readmitted to the meeting. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Richard. Second motion is on the US presidential election proposed by Councillor Johns. Natasha will now share her screen, and once that's been done, Councillor Johns, could you please present your motion?
Thank you, Chairman. Chair, following the United States presidential election, many are hoping to see a reset back to a more stable government in America, the government respected once again across the world. But more specifically, for a return to honesty, truth, facts, and for an understanding of and respect for science, the science of climate change in particular, and for a return to high standards of behaviour and civility, public and private, and for actions that demonstrate a sense of respect for others, including those with views you may not share, and of course, to strive for equality. So, Chairman, my motion to Council is that South Northamptonshire, having strong links with the American people due to their presence at RAF Croughton, Council congratulates Joe Biden and Kamala Harris on their election victory. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Johns. Is there a seconder?
Yes, there is.
Councillor Richard Dallin.
Yeah.
Will you speak or reserve your right to speak later in the debate?
I'd like to speak now, if that's possible, please, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I'll leave the line open for you.
Thank you very much. Councillors, here in South North Hants district, we are but a small part of the broader Western democracy. We act according to the rules of democracy and open debate. We respect the dignity of office. We rightly deplore any flouting of or challenge to such rules. In the United States, the defeated president has poured scorn on the democratic process and abused the most important democratic office of state in the West. What he has done is given succor to all in the world who oppose democracy. What a dangerous example to set. And therefore, I believe it is appropriate that we, though but a small cog in the Western democratic world, should applaud Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, who have restored people's faith in Western democracy. I'm happy to support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Dallin. Does any member wish to speak? Councillor McCord, I believe.
So on mute.
Thank you, Chairman. I think the proposer of this motion has gone lockdown loopy. Either that or he does a wonderful line in irony. I'm struggling to see the relevance of this motion to our constitution. There's a very tenuous link to the RAF Croughton, but many of the personnel at the base are UK nationals. And Councillor Johns is clearly happy with the outcome of the US election. On the eve of the poll, he confidently predicted a landslide that never came. I suppose, being a Lib Dem, he's buoyed up with the famous claim to return to your constituencies and prepare for government. How did that go? Or the prediction just a year ago that the leader of the Liberal Democrats, Jo Swinson, remember her, that she'd be Prime Minister. How did that go? So I do welcome his conversion to accepting a democratic vote. I listened very heartily to his defence of democracy and accepting the outcome of the vote that he has just given. It would have been more forceful if he'd practiced what he preached. America voted 52-48, closer in places. Sound familiar? When a tight vote in this country chose to leave the European Union, did he accept it? Did he, heck? All the things that Trump is accused of comes from the playbook of the Uber Remainers, or is that Ramoners, of which Councillor Johns and the Lib Dems are fully paid up members. They went to court with Gina Miller and others to subvert our democracy. They peddled rubbish about Russian interference in Cambridge Analytica, all of which have been debunked by the Electoral Commission. They demanded a second referendum and third and fourth if the decision was not what they wanted. He may have missed the third referendum. yes, the third in 18 years by the good people of the Falkland Islands recently on the question of whether the island should have 2 wards or 1. It was lost. I suppose they'll want a 4th vote. They berated those who voted for Brexit by calling them stupid, fascist, inferior, and unable to understand their sophisticated worldview. The same abuses hurled at Trump's voters with no attempt to analyse what is the real motivation behind voting intentions. Their behaviour in this country showed the Liberal Democrats are neither liberal nor democratic, and this demonstration of support for US election proves they only abide by democracy when they get the result they like. Everything Trump did was from the playbook of Uber Ramon in the UK. Strange how he thinks that it's an unacceptable way forward, but defended it a few months ago in this country. Hypocrisy. I suppose, Chairman, that's the other great trait of every Liberal Democrat. Chairman, I'm struggling with this proposal. As a council, we tend to stick to our part of the world. We can hold many opinions on other matters, but they are not official council business. We've not sent a message of congratulations to Boris Johnson, Theresa May, David Cameron or Gordon Brown, all of whom have taken office whilst I've been a member on this council. We didn't send messages of congratulations to the participants of the recent parliamentary or presidential elections that have been held across the world in Ireland, Israel, Croatia, South Korea, Poland, New Zealand, Greece, Azerbaijan, Serbia, Slovenia, Belarus, Montenegro, Georgia, Moldova. I could go on, all held this year. Did he not like those outcomes, or did he not know they went on? On balance, Chairman, I think it's best to stick to matters South Northants. Both he and I have taken up too much time already. In accordance with the Council Procedure Rules 13, I propose that we immediately move to the next item of business. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McCord. Do I have a seconder to the proposal? I think Councillor Bignell. Okay, we have a proposer and a seconder. I'll then move to the vote. Yes. So if you now tick the boxes. Okay, all councillors have voted and the motion is carried to move to the next item of business. Thank you. Can we therefore move to item 8? Announcements by the Leader of the Council and the Chief Exec. Councillor McCord, do you have any announcements?
Thank you, Chairman. Well, members, as we were getting ready to actually come on air, we had my announcements torn up by Councillor Atkinson, but nonetheless, we formally offer congratulations to everyone in the planning department. For earlier today, it was announced they were highly commended in the planning awards, and that was on all of their work and surrounding the Moat Lane regeneration project. I know it's something of which we're all very proud, but it's good to see that that regeneration project is also getting national recognition, and that's all I have to say. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor McCord. Chief Executive, do you have any announcements?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just a couple of announcements from me. Firstly, I'd just like to reiterate the announcement that you made regarding the member briefing that is taking place on Monday evening. We do have a full agenda. We'll be updating members on local government reorganisation, on our response to COVID and developments there. We'll also be covering off our preparations for the end of the transition period, re-Brexit, and also giving members an idea on how we're proposing to formally put together the plans to close down South Northants Council as we move into or transition into West Northants Council. So it is a full agenda, and I would encourage members to attend on Monday evening if at all possible. My second announcement is with regards to the COVID mobile testing unit, which will be in the long stay car park from 10 a.m. on Monday the 30th of November through to Sunday the 13th of December. The parking enforcement team have been informed to halt their action in short stay areas for the duration of the MTU being in situ. The last item was just to let you know, amid all the national speculation around what's happening at Christmas, we haven't forgotten it in South Northants, so we will be considering our options, but obviously it is a bit of a moving feast at the moment with regards to the pandemic. So obviously we will update members in due course when things become a little bit clearer. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Chief Executive. Moving on to questions to the Leader of the Council and the Chief Executive. Are there any questions to the Leader or Chief Executive on their announcements? We're not seeing any observations of hands. Moving on to item 10, appointment of co-opted member to the Standards Committee. Councillor Townsend, please will you present and propose the report?
I propose we accept this report. It's really about having a parish councillor on the standards board. We did invite volunteers. There was only this one applicant, but we interviewed him, and I was very impressed with him, and I think he will make a great contribution if and when we have to sit on these rather almost inevitably tricky situations. No, he was good, and I would hope that. I mean, he said to me that he was wanting to know more about local government, so hopefully he might want to stand as a councillor. Thanks very much. I hope you will accept that proposal.
Thank you very much, Councillor Townsend. Is for a seconder? Okay, Councillor Davis. Councillor Davis, do you wish to speak now or later in the debate? Councillor Davis? Councillor Howard David, you're on mute. You come off mute.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Did you hear my question?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Do you wish to speak now or later in the debate?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Does any member wish to speak on the report? Can't see any hands, so take that as a no. Councillor Townsend, as proposer, would you like to sum up? You're muted, Councillor Townsend.
No, we've all tried to behave properly. No, I haven't got anything to add.
Thank you. Members will now vote using the online poll. You'll have 30 seconds to vote for, against, or abstain. All councillors have voted and the result is unanimous. Motion is carried. Thank you. Item 11, amendments to Part 10 of the Constitution, Officer Scheme of Delegation. The Executive Director of Resourcing has nothing to add to this report. I will therefore move the recommendations and have a seconder in the Vice Chair, Councillor Herring. I've just seen Councillor Herring.
Duly seconded, thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Herring. Does any member wish to speak on the report? I can't see any hands. We're not observing anybody waving. Thank you, members. We will now vote using the online poll. You will have 30 seconds to vote for, against, or abstain. Okay, I can confirm the recommendations are agreed. All councillors voted and it was unanimous. Item 12, Local Government and Social Care Ombudsman Report. Councillor Rawlinson, please would you present and propose the report?
Thank you very much, Chairman. Councillors, the Local Government and Social Care Ombudsman provides the final stage of appeal for complaints about councils and social care after the council's own complaints procedures have been exhausted. And the Ombudsman issues an annual report covering complaints that have been received and their outcome. This report covers their findings for SNC for the financial year 2019-20. In that time, a total of 8 complaints had been received against South Northamptonshire, 3 related to tax benefits, 1 to corporate services, 1 environmental services, and 3 related to planning. Now, due to timing issues, the number of decisions do not relate necessarily to those particular complaints, but 4 decisions were made during the period, and only 1 of which was upheld. It was determined that maladministration had occurred in 1 case which related to a planning application and enforcement action. Some fault was found in the way the decision was made, but it did not cause a significant injustice, and there was no fault in respect of the enforcement item. So that was the only item that was agreed. And we have obviously learnt lessons from these complaints and will improve our processes going forward. And I therefore this evening just ask the council to note the contents of the report. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Rawlinson. Do I have a seconder for this report? Councillor McCord. Councillor McCord, do you wish to speak now or later in the debate?
Thank you, Chair. I'll speak now. Can I just, once again draw Council's attention to the Local Government Ombudsman. Last year, I think we had 0. And I said that wasn't a time for, heartily congratulating ourselves in a job well done, because we know that it often bounces around between 0 and 2, I think. That's not to say there's any room for complacency. These are always opportunities to learn, to improve, to find out what we can do. I know when I get the letter, usually around July time, it always tells you as well the number that were actually sent to the Ombudsman, and there are many that go there and the Ombudsman sends them back and says, no, you've got to resolve that through the local complaints procedure first, because I think a lot of people, particularly around the planning issues, because they don't like the decision, they try and challenge the permission granted, permission refused via that route, as opposed to whether or not we actually did what we were supposed to do in following our procedures and following the law. I'm happy that we're not subject to a lot of complaints, which I think tells us that we are broadly serving the needs of our residents as we need to, and that we are not having many complaints upheld for those people that from time to time feel aggrieved by what we as a council have done. But nonetheless, I'm not going to have any complacency. Each one of these, somebody somewhere wasn't happy, but we all know, and particularly in planning matters, you can't please all of the people all of the time. In fact, we're probably happy to play for a draw and please some of the people some of the time. So that's all I have to say. And the report, it is a requirement that the Ombudsman makes that we bring the report in public to full council, that people can see it go through. So I think it's important that we give it a few minutes of the time once a year. Thank you, Chair.
Sorry, thank you, Councillor McCord. Does any member wish to speak on this report? No hands. We've not observed anyone wishing to speak. Therefore, Councillor Rawlinson, as the proposer, would you like to sum up?
I don't think there's anything to add, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Rawlinson. Well, thank you. Members, we now move to the vote. It'll be an online poll. You will have 30 seconds to vote for, against, or abstain. I can confirm the recommendations agreed with all members voting, and it was unanimous. Thank you. Item 13, urgent business. There are no items of urgent business. In which case I will now close the meeting. Thank you, councillors and officers, for attending, and I hope members of the public who have been watching have found the meeting interesting. Please stay safe. Councillors, please mute your microphones and turn off your cameras